Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so you can learn and I can learn better as well. I'm going to share a video that I did with Aesah. It's a coaching session on a 7 Exotech Zeri line. And if you can see here, the top 4 share of 7 Exotech Zeri is the highest at Diamond Plus, has an amazing 4.2 AVP, and the pick rate is only 0.7. I think if you go to like Challenger Plus, it should be much higher, zero point 0.9. Marcel even mentioned that by standard, it should be two-way or even three-way contested. So it's it's likely underplayed right now. And if we look at the Exotech items, they're pretty much all playable except for Hollowbow is the worst. It performs far less optimally than the others. It's more obvious if we go to the filters here and then go to the trait items. So you can see here it's a plus 0.37 Hollowbow, but pretty much everything else is playable. Ideally, it's pulse stabilizer, and the way you would itemize Zeri is you just want Rageblade, and Kraken is her best build. Flicker Blade is amazing. If we go frequency, yeah, just both of these are good. Flux Capacitor, Pulse Stabilizer are really amazing, and it's quite stable once you can get to Mordekaiser 2, Jin 2, Varus 2, and then Sedge 1 and Zeri 1 in stage 4 can usually be a very stable stage 4. Maybe you're not full streaking, but you're like mixed loss and taking good losses. So very consistent comp and highly recommend it. So I hope you enjoy this coaching session with Aesah, and here it is. So Zeri is viable. So teardrop not ideal for Zeri start. I guess it's like okay for like Vow.
Yeah, I mean, I personally just really like this comp. I think it's like, I think this comp is like extremely overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
If you get good items, which you have really good items.
How many
Um,
ways contested are you willing to play it?
oh, probably like ideally like two ways. I think like three is like not that great in general, but you can if like one of them has like if one of the players has a really bad spot or whatever, like they're level 740 gold or something on like 3-6, and then like you can roll a 4-1 with like 60 gold after leveling or something. Then I think
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do like three ways if like one player has a really bad spot. But otherwise, I don't think I would contest like two other players playing it.
Okay, and then backup, you can just go to the new 6 Vanguard to Aphelios and Zaya comp.
Yeah, Rageblade, Kraken Slayer, they use a lot of the same items.
Yeah. How
With a
often
new
would.
Rageblade, it's a lot better to just if you have to kind of like sack it, it's just like a lot better in general. If
Mhm.
you have to put it on, just like any unit, like if you're somehow play like Brand so you just have to throw it on your off carry, it's like not as bad now.
Uh, I would have never considered switching from Zeri to Brand 6. Like,
Uh,
oh,
I would say, yeah, depending on how your items turn out. Like, I guess I'd just say, like, if your first item is Rageblade, and then you get drop, like, all tiers of rods or something, I'm not
I
sure.
see. Okay, interesting. Um, and would you, on the Zeri roll down, if you're like three-way contested, would you consider holding Urgots? Like, just going, if you hit an Urgot, like, do you just pivot Urgot? If, let's say, you're three-way
Um,
contested.
I don't think... I think you would need Urgot 2 to be better than, like, Zeri 1.
Okay.
Because Urgot 1 and Zeri 1 are already, like, pretty comparable, but the problem is, like, if you commit to Urgot 1, you're... Unless, like, your spot is really, really good. Like, if you hit really early, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go 9 on 5-1 with a lot of gold,
Hmm.
I think that's okay. But the problem with like committing to 1-star legendaries is oftentimes you just won't 2-star them. You'll fall off even though you'll be strong in the short term.
Right. Okay. I've been playing a lot more Gorilla reroll lately. Seems like it's like a solid top four comp if you get item
Yeah,
augments.
I don't mind. I think it's all right. Uh, I talked about this recently, but I think this comp is very underrepresented in data because Zyra is still itemized a lot more than Seraphine.
Yeah.
Even when I filter for Challenger Plus, it's still the case, which is really surprising to me. But I think like most of the players that like I talk to know that they just like everyone itemizes Seraphine. But
I wonder if it's doing that in the stats because you're usually primary carrying your Seraphine, and then when you hit brand two, you maybe move your primary carry items over to brand. So then, if you're out of removers, you might end with Zyra items.
I think just a lot of people think of it as a Zyra comp because I mean it's not that hard to have one war remover, and if anything that's like an even more egregious mistake if you can't itemize your Seraphine over Zyra because you don't like didn't save one remover somewhere down the line.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So from this spot here, um, like going Zeri seems like ideal, but I don't have Zeri items right now. I'm probably not going to be strong in the early game. Um, so like
I
Vanguard.
will say on
Mhm.
2-1, Vanguard is good for sure, but I think I pretty much always take Forge. I think it might be like the single best gold augment on 2-1. I can't think of anything better.
Okay. Really? Interesting.
Uh, I think so, yeah.
I guess especially if you can hit Titanic Hydra, like that's just completely broken, right?
Is Titanic Hydra even the best one? I feel like there's quite a lot of ones that are considered like pretty broken. There's 32 of them total. I guess like average placement overall, Titanic Hydra Graves, like for example, Titanic Hydra Graves is 3.38 immediately. So if you imagine like an augment, back when we had augment stats, something that was like 4.1 is considered really good, for example.
Yeah, I was looking at the
But there's a
bonus. Like this is 3.2
yeah,
and Flicker Blade.
yeah. I think there are quite a lot of them. Titanic Hydra is the highest or the best AVP overall, but there's actually quite a lot of them, quite a lot
Mm-hmm.
of hits. Because there's 32, I think, artifacts. You
Yeah.
see four of them. So on average, you'll see like a top 8 artifact. This is like really rough math, but it's like pretty fairly accurate to say that you'll see like a top 8 on average. But even if you have to take like a bottom 50% artifact, there's still just a lot of good ones.
Okay.
But yeah,
It,
again,
it,
back when we had augment stats, like a 4.1 is considered like really, really overpowered.
right.
I think like half of these items, assuming like you know who to put it on, like for example, Blinding Jeweled is like if you look at the overall average placement, Blinding Jewel's like about in the middle. But if you have Blinding Jewel and you put it on Morgana or Fiddle, then I'm not sure what you're like. Just try Morgana, I guess. Like Blinding on Morgana, yeah, 3 point. Well, this is with blue buff also, but without blue buff, it's probably better than that. Where I said like a 4.1 is a very broken augment.
Yeah. If I had a Rage Blade slam here, would you consider Vanguard? Given that I think I have a
I
top
think I
one.
would still do Forge, but I know Vanguard is really good this patch. I just think Forge is, yeah, I think Forge is just too good.
Okay. So like you can hit Flicker Blade if you're thinking about top
Yeah,
one.
it's not just that. You could hit like Wit's End. You could hit like Unending Despair.
Yeah.
Like those are just as good. And then there's just a lot of good ones.
Okay.
I've talked about this before, but I think fundamentally, I really strongly believe like Riot over relies on data to balance just because. I mean, first of all, Mort left lobby 2, which used to be like the source of feedback for like high elo players, because he didn't want to give people who are in it an advantage. Basically, like people on like Reddit were complaining that players like myself have an unfair advantage because of lobby 2, but now they just actually like get very little feedback from players. So I think they bounce mostly based on data, and as you can see, like using the blinding jewel example, 4.37 overall, but if you put it on Morgana, it's probably in the threes. I think a lot of players who take blinding jewel, they just don't know what to play it with. They just put on like a brand or something. So the data for it probably like doesn't look that good. I mean, by a lot, even like 30% of the time, like will drastically decrease the. Yeah, I did see the frequency, but like even if it's only like 30% of the time, they'll like drastically decrease the average placement.
Yeah. Okay, so here. That sample. What happened? There's like fewer showing up. But here, basically, I think I have a Bow Slam with Light Shield for the early game could be okay.
Yeah.
Light Shield or Hull Crusher, I
Um,
guess.
I also want to say I really don't think you should be looking at like builds for data like this because there's a few different reasons, but using the Morgana example, like 2 tiers is pretty hard to get. So that's gonna be like let's say that's the same average placement as let's just say like a best of slot craftable regular build. That's gonna be a lot harder to get. But like if you just look at the average placement, you're gonna be like, oh, these are about equal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I mostly use the builds to get an idea of who. To your point, like these are
I
just
see, yeah.
averages, whereas like the builds can tell you who it's really broken on.
I see. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I just wouldn't look too closely. Also, so the sample size for builds is always going to be really low.
Yeah.
The stream is a little bit blurry for me, but can you go
Okay.
back to the builds for a second? So, I'm just curious about like the Leona, Stoveplate, Warmogs, Light Shield. Like that is probably like one of the more generic ones. No, probably not, honestly. But like I would
This
assume
one
the sample's not that big. How much? What's the frequency? I can't see.
145. Let
Oh
me
yeah, I think that's
try
way
to
too low. Like way, way, way too low.
increase the sample.
What was the average placement on that one for the Leona
I
one?
at AVP 4.3.
Okay.
So not that
Yeah.
good. 6% win rate.
Well, I'm just curious, like, again, with a sample this small, if you changed it to the samples like 1,000, I wouldn't not. I mean, I know intuitively this is probably around there, but just in
Yeah,
general,
you just throw it out the
uh,
window.
if you increase the sample to 1,000, this could be like a 4.6
Yeah.
potentially. Like, I think this build will not be. Um, but like it could be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think from this spot, it's either Light Shield or Hull Crusher. I guess it could be Lichbane, but that's so probably unreliable.
Glacial and Hull Crusher are both just generically good.
Yeah.
Lichbane, I would think, is basically Yumi exactly. Um, but yeah, Hull Crusher is a little bit. Uh, Glacial has more synergy with shields and which Vanguard is really strong, as you mentioned,
Or it's
and it
stronger
also has some
with
synergy.
Bastion, right?
Yeah, it's also has synergy with armor resist, so it's good with Vanguard and also with Bastion. But yeah, I personally think Light Shield is the best option here.
Are you willing to slam here? I guess I
I
think I
would
do
definitely
this too
not slam
much.
yet because
Yeah.
like okay. So first of all, I'm definitely willing to slam, but if you look at your opponent's board, he has like the same
Yeah.
board as you, except you have a full artifact up. So it's I don't think this fight is going to be that close.
Yeah, I just realized that afterwards.
Yeah, you could kind of a lot of times you can react to your opponent's slamming, but yeah, like with just a light shield, I think. I mean, the Val didn't do anything, of course. I'm definitely like fine slamming it, but I just think like you don't have to. Maybe like you hit an Elise in the shop, and then maybe you want like Shojin. It's hard to say. I
I
mean,
probably should
Shojin's
have.
not great on Elise, but I think it's a little bit better than this.
Yeah. I probably should have scouted before I leveled there. Even, what do you think of this
I
level?
think you can safely level here. I guess in a perfect world you would scout, but I think this is like a pretty safe level. You get like a fairly meaningful power
Okay.
increase. You won the first round. Um, I think like I would level here like more than 90% of the time.
Wait, could I have made 10 there? 2, 4, 6. Yeah. Oh, wait. No, I can't. Wait. If I could have made 10 here, would you have?
I probably would. Because the only unit you really care about is the Viper, but then you already have Scarter 1, so like you replace Scarter 1 with Vi 2, which of course is stronger. But
Is that stronger
again,
given that
like
I have a Kog'Maw on the board?
I mean you only have a Kog'Maw 1.
Hmm.
Like a
Okay.
Vi 2 plus a Kog'Maw 1 does more damage than a Scarter 1
Mhm.
and a Kog'Maw 1. The Kog'Maw also doesn't have items, and I mean that's only in terms of damage, but obviously the Vi 2 is just a lot more frontline as well.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah, it's the reason I would say I would sell it is because it's like a marginal upgrade.
Hmm.
I didn't see anyone like, or I didn't pay super close attention because I was talking about other stuff while you're scouting. I still think Exotech is like good for this spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see like you're holding some of those units. I think you can for sure sell like the bastions because even if you hit Poppy 2, your front line is still just gonna be what it is.
Okay. So just make 10 here.
Yeah. It's because like you would have to hit like multiple things. You would have to hit like Poppy and Jax to like want to play these.
I was thinking that if I hit the Poppy 2, that maybe with Light Shield's already stronger. So if I'm 3 streaking, I should just play strongest board at that point.
Light Shield is good with Bastion, but I'm pretty sure it's stronger with Vanguard because well, let me just look at what the item does. Light Shield. It's okay. So shield the lowest percent health ally for 70% of their armor and magic resist. So basically, on a Bastion, it will give an extra like it'll give an extra, let's just say like 13 armor MR. But on a Vanguard, it gives you 12% durability, which is worth a decent bit more. It's hard to quantify how much more,
Hmm.
but um, I guess a lot of the ways I think of these is I'll just like use a few things I can reference. Like for example, the two things I would think about here are Steadfast Heart and Big Friend to
Yeah.
kind of like evaluate like it's just really hard to quantify like how much one durability is, right? But like for example, Big Friend, the gold augment has a conditional. It has two conditionals, in fact. They have to have 1750 HP and they have to start next to an ally, so it's like a double conditional and it gives you 10% durability as a gold augment. On the flip side, something like Light Up, I guess, is conditional, but it gives you more than 10 armor MR as a silver augment.
I
So
see.
basically, and also if you just compare like Steadfast Heart to what's the best thing to compare to? Maybe Stoneplate? I'm not sure. maybe adaptive. But if you compare like Steadfast Heart to Stoneplate, I think it's I think it's also clear like 1% durability is worth a decent bit more than one Armor MR. Um, so because of this, I think Vanguard is stronger than Bastion. The other thing I would look at is just data. I think if you look just for the relative delta on Light Shield users, there are definitely some Bastions at the top, but the highest was just reading top to bottom. Skarner, Sejuani, Vi, Poppy. Okay, honestly, it's pretty split 50-50. There's Jarvan Leona, but also Galio Jax. Yeah, it's split pretty 50-50. I do think it favors the Vanguards a little bit, though.
Okay. Like I look at this and it seems like Sejuani is the optimal user.
Um, I think Light Shield is kind of like an off-take item. So I think that's why Sejuani looks better with it than Leona.
Hmm.
But in the early game, we're kind of thinking like, is it stronger with Bastions or Vanguards? I think again with Bastions, you'll get actually like 0.7 times. Let's just say 18. You'll get like an extra 13 armor MR. With Vanguards, you'll get extra 12% durability.
How do you get to the conclusion that Light Shield is an off tank item? Like the
Oh,
55 armor magic resist is like pretty high stat value, right?
well, because the effect benefits your entire team, and it even has like an extra effect when it dies that you want to give to your main tank. Like that's not that important, honestly. But anytime you have an item like this is almost a support item, where it's like you can put it on anyone and it benefits your entire team. It does have like the base stats, but they're pretty low compared to if it were a um, pure like compared to like a pure artifact, like a Hull Crusher, for example.
Right.
But I would just say like fundamentally, just the fact that it's balanced around benefiting your whole team instead of selfishly makes it so it cannot be as strong as a pure selfish take item.
Okay. Is there ever a world where in a 6 Vanguard line you like put it on your shittiest Vanguard and want it to die to get the durability value?
Um, Light Shield's kind of interesting because you also wanted to proc as many times as possible,
Yeah.
but you also wanted to hit as many units as possible. So I guess like ideally I guess like
Kind of like
this unit
Virtue
like
of the
dies
Martyr.
just before your it dies like just before your May take, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hmm. You probably do want it to die fairly early because you would think on average like more than one of your units dies every 3 seconds. I guess like let's say you're level 8 and the fight ends at 24 seconds and your units die at a linear pace, then it would break even. So you probably actually prefer for it to die early, but you don't just want to sacrifice it straight up because as you mentioned, it does most of the value of the item is in the base stats.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say most is because, like, let's just say it didn't have an effect at all, but it gave 110 armor, 110 magic resist. That would probably be stronger. So I assume like more than 50% of the value is in the base stats.
Yeah. All right. So from this spot, I think I was like hard focused on Sejuani. I didn't realize it was so good on Vanguards. I think I never even thought about the interaction on the durability. Um, so in my mind, I was like angling towards
I think
Zeri
you
on this one.
should. Yeah. You don't really have any like backline anything. I think you have really good Exotech items. I think it's the best comp of the game. I didn't see exactly how contested it was, but I would think the best thing to angle towards is Zeri. You also have the Val, which is really good at Sejuani.
Yeah, I think from this spot, from what I recall, it was like one or two other people maybe angling it.
Yeah. Either way, I want anything except Chain here. Hopefully Belt. just because you have two big frontline items. And Cloak is easier to make into a backline item, especially now we have Kraken Slayer, which is best in slot.
Yep.
Whereas Shade can never be a backline item under any circumstance.
I pretty much just always take a cash out unless I'm trying to go like some type of fast 9 angle or I have like some augment that gets amplified value from extra gold. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, so continue I think is more gold overall. So
Although I guess if I'm maybe more contested, I should lean towards continue to like increase the likelihood that I can hit.
I guess I'm thinking of which situations you want more gold overall. I would say Exotech, a lot of the strength is that it functions in low econ. Like you don't need any legendaries.
Hmm.
A lot of your off units contribute a lot to the strength of your boards. Because like even if you hit Sejuani 1, Zeri 1, you'll be a lot more stable than like an amp board that has like Nico 1, Annie 1, no Samira.
Uh-huh.
So I would think like as Exotech, you want the overall econ to be lower, but I guess the reverse would apply if you're trying to play like amp.
Okay. So I should
In my
just
experience, the lobby just always splits because I actually always click left just
yeah.
because what happened is like the first two times I played this, I split, and then like I just wanted to see what left would do, so I just always click left and it splits every single time.
Yeah. I had never seen continue, partly because I always voted cash out, but then Marcel made the point that he actually sometimes did click this and had it happen once or twice, but it was like
Yeah,
95% of the time this.
yeah. I think if you have some sort of augment such as I don't know, like level up, that you can make extra value of the gold that you would prefer continue.
Yeah.
If you're angling like a level 9 comp, like uh, or just a comp that wants a lot of gold, like amp, that you want to continue. But if you're angling like a low econ comp, like Zeri, you're only playing 2 costs, 4 costs, 0 5 costs. That you want to keep the econ low, so cash out gives less overall gold.
What about if you're playing reroll and you hit a bunch of your units early and you're like poor? So in that situation, you probably could value the gold later more, but then you want to just hit your interest threshold. So getting this gold right now is also valuable.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very real. If let's say it's two, I think it will help everyone hit the interest thresholds. But let's say it's like 2 item opener, if people are already making 50, but you have a really expensive board, and it helps you hit the interest thresholds, then splitting, cashing out is a lot better in that case, right? Because it helps you get interest, but it doesn't help other people.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I in my experience, people just split like almost always, or cash out, which is what happened, of course.
In my mind, the moment I'm just gonna angle Exo, so I'm not gonna sell the Varus.
Yeah, I think your strongest board is 3 techie here, but I'm not like super confident, but I think it's 3 techie.
3 techie.
Or maybe like 2 techie plus Varus, but I'm pretty sure like it's like Fiddle plus like
Oh,
Zyra is better than Rapid Fire.
okay. I was thinking that rapid fire because
I
it's my front line so strong that it would scale, but you're saying that's just the techie might just be more damage anyway.
I guess I'm not entirely sure, but it for sure is Fiddle.
Okay. Yeah, because of the boom bot. Okay.
Yeah, like it might be Fiddle over Varus, but I think it's like Fiddle, Zyra, and Varus. But it's like pretty small difference. I'm not even like super confident, but yeah, these things like add up, I guess. I would probably do items on Poppy here. Actually, no. You might
The
get
moment I get
extra
I have
item.
a
Yeah.
repulsor, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, never mind.
If
Yeah,
it was like
Jazz is
hyper
better.
things or something, then definitely Poppy, right? Because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
moment
because
you
you're gonna
get
get
more,
extra item. Dynamo is definitely something I'm still like interested in playing for this spot. Dynamo's just really flexible, like any front line, any items, it's just like really strong. It did get nerfed this patch, but it's still good.
I guess I should
Yeah,
be
so here you
holding
have
them
Kraken
more.
Slayer, really good.
Who do you put Krakens on here?
Um,
Like Graves could just dive in and die.
Probably just Graves, I think.
Okay.
I think AD items on Varus just like don't do enough, basically.
And are you okay with the IE slam there?
Yeah. I don't think you need sword or glove for anything else.
Yeah.
But like Varus's base AD is 35.
Mm-hmm.
Graves' base AD is 55. Um, so you can already think of like the Kraken being worth like nearly double on Graves because he also has like an ability that scales off AD.
Right. Okay. Here I just slammed the IE, so the piercing lotus
Yes,
is
for
less
sure, not
heavy.
Lotus.
Uh,
I think left and right are both
yeah.
really strong. I'm not really sure how to evaluate bad luck protection, but I think left and right are both extremely strong.
You don't mind bad luck protection even after I slammed IE.
Yeah, you also have pulse, so it's probably just left. I mean, bad luck
Oh, okay.
protection doesn't make IE bad actually, because it just makes IE give you 70 AD, which is a little bit worse than Deathblade, but it's like pretty close.
Okay.
I actually learned this from the TFT Plus tournament from last set when I saw someone do it, and like my initial reaction was like, "Oh, like that seems like a waste," but then it just makes Infinity Edge give you 70 AD, which is very reasonable.
IE gives you how much crit?
Well, it gets you 35 at 35, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, IE is still one of the best AD items, even with bad luck protection.
Okay.
Like it's still probably better than Giant Slayer in most circumstances.
So here I couldn't tell between these two. Which one? Like this gives me a 3 gold, but I'm lacking a Rage Blade, and the Kraken could scale off this, and I have a strong frontline items.
Yeah, I think Clockwork is by far the worst out of these three.
How do you come to
You are
that
lacking a
conclusion?
Rageblade at Capotis right now, but I would assume like you could get a Rageblade at some point. You also have Rapid Fire, which gives like again we're angling towards Zeri main carry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Rapid Fire gives. I mean, Rapid Fire just gives 10% attack speed to the whole team, but then every 2 autos you're getting 8% with 2 Rapid Fire. So the Clockwork is not as valuable.
Okay.
Overheal is really hard to evaluate. I've had this talk with
Yeah.
a lot of top NA challengers, like Dish Soap, etc. This thing is really hard to evaluate, honestly. I think I would take bulky, but basically overheal is good when you have like a Rageblade user like Zeri. Because it's most of the value of the augment is the damage it deals in the auto attacks. I mean you could just divide the 110 by 3. So it's basically like your auto attacks deal 35% more damage is kind of one way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just really hard to evaluate because I guess it's like the reverse of Infinity Edge, where Infinity Edge amplifies Zeri's clones, whereas her Overheal only does not work on her clones, I'm assuming.
So this is
I
like
would think
bet.
Bulky Buddies is better.
If I had Rage Blade, would you lean over heal?
No, like to me, if we're angling Exotech, I'm just like I'm mentally assuming you're going to get a Rage Blade at some point.
Okay.
I think like because I've played this comp a lot. I've probably played 7XO. I'm just gonna go check just for fun.
Especially if we know
I have
contested 1 or 2 ways. Like I forget if the other players already got bows. I guess in this situation I should scout to see how likely bows are to be taken off
I,
carousel?
I just assume you're gonna get it. I've played seven Exotech, not even counting like the patches where I play like 5 Exo with Misfortune as
Mm-hmm.
Zeri carry.
Yep.
I have played 7 Exotech 42 times. Let me just like look through my match history. I've not had Rageblade. I want to say like once.
But like, so you're
I
still
just assume you're
angling.
gonna get it.
You're still angling the line even without bow opener. Like,
I just assume you're gonna get Rageblade from this spot. Yeah, it's only stage 3. Like you have a component anvil, you have two carousel picks before stage 5. You have at least like 6 component drops. I didn't see how many total, but like again, out of 42 games, I think I only don't have it once. You have 4 components right now. They increase it, or sorry, you have 6 components now. They increase it back up to 14 minimum, so you're getting 8 more components, and you're getting 3 handpicked components from carousels and anvil. So you're getting 8 total components at a bare minimum, and 3 of those like you can influence to choose. So 8 components total. It's just like very very likely you'll get 1 bow, 1 rod. I mean, you might not get it in this game, but like it's just very likely.
okay.
Um, yeah, I'm just scrolling through my match history. Like I've almost at the bottom. I think it is literally 1 out of 42 games where I wasn't able to get Rageblade.
And so how often do you end up in this spot where you're in stage 3 with no Rageblade and no Rageblade components? Like, what
Yeah,
percentage
I
of
mean
those
it could happen.
games?
I think it's gonna happen more often now because of Kraken Slayer. But
Yeah.
before, like I wouldn't slam any bow items. So that is a fair point. That'll happen more frequently now, but I still think it's like too it's too rare. Like I think you should assume you'll have Rageblade.
Okay. So I have these 3.
I
I
think
guess if I take that assumption, I agree with you in the future. I feel
I
like
don't
that
think you would
seems like
take
such a.
Clockwork either way.
Mhm.
Like I think even without Rageblade, Clockwork is the weakest between Bad Luck Protection and Bulky.
Okay. Because
I mean,
Rapid
Clockwork
Fire
is
already
not that
gives you.
much attack speed, right? Like it gives you 15 seconds into the fight. It gives you the same amount of, or sorry, like 21 seconds, or wait, 18 seconds into the fight. It gives you as much as 2 Rapid Fire. But that's like way too late
So you
for
just
Zeri specifically.
consider this untakeable? Or is it, would you say it's much better in 6 Vanguard since your frontline
It's better
inspiration?
in
Or
Marksman, right? Because Marksman give themselves AD, but like 2 Rapid Fire, you already get 50 attack speed from 2 Rapid
Mhm.
Fire. So again, like 15 seconds into the fight, this will give you 50% attack speed, but 2 Rapid Fire already gets you 50%. So I think Bad Luck Protection is just like I think Bad Luck Protection is just a little bit overpowered overall, as is Bulky. But I think yeah, I think I'd lean towards Bulky. Exotech also positions really well with Bulky.
if you if it didn't have the gold value attached to it, you would still prefer bulky?
I think so, yeah. Either that or Bad Luck Protection.
Okay. Given that I rolled all of them, out of these 3, which one do you like?
Hmm. I think implants.
Okay. So you have
You're already committed AD. You have Kraken Slayer.
and exo items.
If you're angling Exo, you should have like a decent amount of items. You have an item augment first.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand your logic. It makes your position for bulky. I understand your logic, but I think it is significantly weaker than the other ones.
Okay. So this guy, Rageblade, this guy's definitely exo. And then I think there's a Cypher guy that also slammed a Rage Blade that could flex between Vanguard and Zeri.
Yeah. I mean, because you have Clockwork, I feel like your setup is actually slightly better for the other thing.
Vanguard. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This guy has 2 Zeris. He just took a Zeri off the carousel. I guess
Yeah,
he's
so I
gone
mean, he's probably
Draven.
just very. Yeah, he's probably just. But I mean, that comp buys Sejuani and
Yeah.
the other thing. Yeah, so it's already three-way contested. I don't know how contested Vanguard is, but I'm already thinking I would rather play Vanguard now.
Okay.
Because, like you said, there's a guy with Cyber Deck, or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
Trial Run. And then there's another guy who has 2 Zeris. That's probably never going to sell them. And you're not like ahead on econ anyway.
Yeah.
Also, like as I mentioned earlier, I think Clockwork is better in Marksman.
I think
And
that's
Light Shield's
too.
about the same in both.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Light Shield, the Vanguard durability interaction benefits from Light Shield. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny you're like positioning for bulky. I will say, one thing I will say about this Rageblade conversation we just had, like obviously like you weren't guaranteed to get bow or rod here, but like this is just like after one carousel. You have one more carousel and you have an anvil. The anvil is just a straight 50-50 to get the exact component you want. And then like you have two handpicked choices. And then I'm curious what the odds of getting dropped in bow or rod is and like your random PvE odds, but I would assume it's higher than 50% also. So it's basically you have to lose like 4 50-50s to not get Rageblade. I think it's like a 1 out of 16 chance ish, kind of. It's like an oversimplified way of thinking of it, but because I would think like your natural components are 50-50, each carousel is a 50-50, and the anvil itself is a 50-50. You also potentially could get like, this is unlikely, but you could get like item augments. You could get like a hacked orb here.
Yeah.
There's just like things that could happen.
You buy this Jinx too. I guess if you're thinking, the other thing is like I'm so far. I am holding this line, but I'm like,
I think you're equally close to both. It's not like you have that many Exotech units. You have a Jax too.
that's true. Okay. So
Like
you buy the
you
Jinx
have
too.
like if you buy this Jinx, and let's just count like not upgrade units, right? Because you have the same amount of upgrades, right? Like you would have one frontline upgrade versus one backline upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
If you just count the total amount of units, you would have. I'm not even gonna count Skarner. You would have uh 9, not even counting Skarner for Vanguard marks. And for Exotech, you would have also 9. You would have 9 of the units for either one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then
I guess you would have, yeah.
buy Jinx to sell Jin, move items over,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
still flex both lines.
Yeah. You could even not slam red buff. Yeah, you could wait one on red buff, and then if you end up in Vanguard, you could just slam that probably.
Okay.
And then you have Spirit Visage as your last tank item, so you're like perfect 3 on backline, 3 on frontline. Bad matchmaking.
I didn't even realize I was still doing bulky position. Okay, so I still want Rage Blaze, so I'm leaning this one out of these three.
God, these are all really bad. I think, yeah, I think out of these three, Savage Man's the best, but it's really bad.
Yeah.
I think it's the best out of these three, though.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I think all these options are pretty bad. I think it's probably just Salvage Bin, but I think it's just really bad. Because you don't really need to salvage any of your items, and you only get like the fact that it's delayed compared to Big Grab Bag.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking salvage in the context of like Vanguard marks. I think if you're playing Zeri, I think something might be better than it. because you don't really need more items if you're playing Zeri. You
Yeah.
already have like almost your full Zeri build. Like you need one rod. You're just very likely to get one rod at some point, and you can still go 3 item in the meantime. Like you won't have the Rage Blade right now, but like you said, you have Clockwork, and you don't need like the 3 perfect items immediately.
Mm-hmm. So rather have some type of combat power for Zeri.
Yeah, there's not anything that amazing. Mana Flow, Malicious. Malicious helps you hit your upgrades. I mean, I don't really like any of those options very much.
Although my board's not strong enough to take advantage of malicious.
I think you have to assume you're going to win the next like 3 rounds. If you don't win the next 3 rounds, I think you're like, just like completely doomed. Regardless of what comps you play. Or
Yeah.
like you have to assume you're going to kill a lot of units in the next 3 rounds because you're not scaling into stage 5.
Yeah, but without like Rage Blade and like how am I gonna kill units? And like Zeri is hyper contested, so I basically have to like hit really well on this roll down, which odds seem not that great of.
I don't. I think like your argument is like you have to like win the next 3 rounds to get value from malicious, but I feel like you have to like win the next 3 rounds to just no matter what you take here, or like not even win, but like kill most of the units.
Yeah, which
Like I
again,
think like hypothetically in a world you don't get value from malicious, you're just you're not gonna place well regardless.
or maybe to frame it a different way, picking salvage bin gives me a higher chance of winning the next few rounds. Right?
It gives you a 1 out of 4 chance of getting a rod, but I think you're really overvaluing how much stronger a rod makes your board. Because sure, again have the 1 out of 4 chance for the rod. If you don't get rod, you do have a full item up for 4-2. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
But malicious will give you potentially like 16 extra gold to roll before your 4-3 fight, which that could make you stronger too.
I see. Okay. I feel like I almost never take malicious unless I know my board's already strong. But I think what I'm hearing from you is there are spots where it can make sense even though your board's not too strong, where you just need to high roll because you're otherwise you're screwed anyway.
Yeah, it's basically like that. You pretty much need to win, otherwise you're screwed anyway, regardless of what you take. Yeah.
And so here I'm still flexing both sides.
I also want to point out that with Clockwork and Rapid Fire, you basically Clockwork and Rapid Fire together effectively gives you a Rage Blade. 15 seconds into the fight, it'll give you 100% attack speed. Rage Blade would give you 105% attack speed.
Okay.
Sorry, 115 plus a 10% base. So like basically 15 seconds into the fight, compared to having a Rage Blade on like Aphelios, Clockwork and Rapid Fire already gives you that much attack speed. So it's definitely not as necessary, especially because if you don't have Rage Blade, you would just have like Red Buff, for example, which gives you 5 stacks of Rage Blade, 35%.
Okay. Oops.
Yeah. Here, so I could see like Giant Slayer, Sunfire. I could see like Val, Red Buff, item wise, but yeah.
You build this? Probably not.
I personally wouldn't. I think like you're too poor. I think like if you had like 50 gold here, I would build this. But I think you're just like this is 6 gold that you're holding.
Yeah.
That yeah, it's just gonna make it harder to hit like other stuff.
Given that so
Again, if
many
you had like
exo
40. Sorry, go ahead.
units, are we still flexing?
I don't think I would flex. I don't think I would flex this roll down. Especially because you have to make a salvage trend decision.
Yeah.
So I think I would commit one or the other. Like I said, I think Vanguard would have been a better choice, but I think now that you're already in the spot, I don't think I would buy Aphelios.
Okay, so let's say at the start of the round after I pick this, are you just open selling and committing to Vanguard Marksman?
I would just try to commit Vanguard marks, yeah, even after skipping the Jinx in the previous shop. But I guess this is why like being committing to a line earlier is like advantageous. Because then you would at least like have some more like Jinx. I mean, I think like if you had the choice in this exact spot, knowing everything we know now, I would rather commit to Marksman, yeah.
Okay. So
I
if we had the Jinx too, you would have just
even without the Jinx, yeah. But yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Even without the Jinx here, you're saying
Mhm.
just open sell all the Exo.
Yeah, I would rather just go Marksman.
Okay. Because I find myself in this spot not uncommonly where I am flexing the two and I get super dizzy, but uh, I guess like the perfect AI bot would do that, but given that we're human and unlikely to be able to pull it off, it usually just ends up worse than committing either way.
I do think there are a few players who probably I think like Setsuko here should flex both of them, but I think like for most players, even for like Dish Soap, I think he would do better if he just commits to one. In fact, I know that's how he plays. He would just commit to one.
I see.
You might pick up the carries, like you might pick up specifically like Zyra and Aphelios, and even if you two star them, you can just play like Exotech with them, and you have Marksman with a Kindred
Mhm.
or with Jin. Like you would just play it over Kindred. But I know he would definitely not like flex the entire board. I think like Setsuko is the player who like maybe could do it, but I think like for 99.9% of players, you should not flex both lines.
Okay, and so let's say we commit exo, but we buy the affiliates on the roll down, we hit it, but we are still committing to Zeri in that spot, and we're only holding on to affiliates until we find one Zeri.
So basically, the way I would think about it is like you're committed to like one line, but you're like willing to pick up like the key unit for the other line, and like you hit it like so. Let's say you play like 7 Exotech Zyra 2, for example. From that point on, you have a lot of time at that point, right? Because now you're going to be really low gold. You don't have a lot of decisions. From that point on, you can just go into like whichever one you're closer to. Like you can just start flexing from that point on. Because the problem with flexing two lines is the time.
Yeah.
We just like don't have enough time to make good decisions. We also have salvage bin.
Okay. So I guess I'm still trying to come to a conclusion on how this should change my roll down behavior in the future. The preference is probably still to just open sell and commit to one line. Except
So
yeah.
yeah, I would probably only buy Exotech units, honestly. Like, I don't think you have like that much gold to be buying like Aphelios and Zayas. But like, let's say you want to commit to Exotech here, yeah, I think I would just like only buy the Exotech units. I
Okay.
think if you had more gold, I think it's pretty reasonable to buy like maybe Leona's and Zayas and Aphelios's, but I don't think I would.
Okay. With that said, you would still open sell and commit to Vanguard first.
Yeah, as we talked about, I think I would have preferred Vanguard in this spot, but given that like we're mentally committed to Exotech, I would just like full commit to Exotech, like or full commit to whatever we want to commit to. Yeah, especially with this amount of gold. Like let's just say you're holding like a Zaya pair. That's like 1/3 of the gold in your bank
Yeah.
right now.
Okay. Buy it. So it just makes playing this game so much easier. Oh, this is that ergot situation I was talking
Yeah,
about. And
it's
I
not like extremely clear if you like sell these Leonas and roll. Like basically, you would sell these Leonas, this Renekton, and you would roll. You would have 13 more gold.
yeah.
It's like not extremely clear if you would have won that fight. Like maybe not. Like maybe you lose anyway. But I guess like the point is, not only did you not get this board in because uh you had this extra like 13 gold you could have rolled, you got your items on late, and like that exact fight I think like was not that close, but it's very, very, very possible you could have lost like an extra 10 HP there because you held these two Leonas.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 HP, as you know, is very easily like a placement.
Yeah.
And I think to the Ridgeway point I was making earlier, like you got it even before your last round. Obviously, like it could be the other way around, where maybe you don't even have a bow or a rod but from here. But I think this is not like unusual or anything
Okay.
to have your
Yeah.
bow and rod by 4-5.
I got it, and I don't have a
I guess
rotor.
yeah. I guess my point is by 5-1, I think you're like you're like by 5-1. I think you're like 90+% to have Rage Blade for sure.
Okay.
As I mentioned, you had to lose about 4 50/50s. So, like, you're about like 15 out of 16. This is like a really rough estimate, of course.
Mm-hmm. Just realized I did bulky the whole game without having bulky.
Yeah, bulky is just really good. I think like Exotech is one of the comps that like doesn't really have to compromise their positioning for bulky.
Yeah.
So I think like because I actually think the positioning requirement is a pretty big drawback in a lot of comps, but it doesn't really matter in this one because your Zeri is just going to run around and then. Okay, nice. I like this. Now we need anti-heal and anti-armor. Anti-armor is more important between the two. You don't have any option for anti-heal except for bow, so yeah, I like this. And do you have salvage bin so you can get anti-armor at some point? Or anti-heal? What is this guy saying? 123 AVC. Okay, never mind. Someone typed something strange in chat.
Oh, I think someone's going for Cho 3.
Oh. But if we think about like this spot, the salvage bin is giving you 3 extra components. You end up with an odd number of components, so you actually got like 2 full items from it, which is pretty good. But I would say like you don't really need like the 2 extra items. You wouldn't have needed malicious anyway, because like malicious, let's just say you would have an extra, like 40 gold here. You don't need that either. And the combats weren't that good. The best one's probably mana flow, which is like very mid.
Yeah.
Um,
So some
so I
other
think like
combat
salvage,
would have been better, but
yeah,
salvage
I think
bin did
salvage
work
bin's
out.
fine, but
Yeah.
for sure
But
you low roll your options. I think your board would be a lot stronger without clockwork though.
yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I mean, again, like anecdotally, I've played 42 Zeri games. It's harder to get now that my first bow is going to be Kraken Slayer, but I've only missed Rage Blade once out of 42 games.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I also remember Milk saying something very similar, that he's only like something very, very similar.
Okay. So my takeaways from this game, especially on stage 4, I should just full commit simplified. And then
Yeah.
once I get
Again,
really
like
good at better at that, then I can consider like holding like a Zyra or a Philios, but only with more
I think
gold.
I think better might not be the right way to say it because I will say like when I started playing, um, everyone, like including like Dish Soap, for example,
Uh-huh.
would hold like 2 lines on their everyone would hold both lines on their roll down when I started playing. But now Dish Soap doesn't do that anymore. So it's like, did he get better? No, I think he got better by committing and like saving his realizing like you just don't have infinite time. Because again, like yeah, when I first started playing, everyone flexed on roll down. Now a lot of the players who used to do that don't do it anymore, and so I think like they're better now. Because like if you lose just one fight, 10 HP from again like just matchmaking in this game, you fought someone pretty strong. Not sure if you would have won even if you had 7x attack, but if you lose 10 HP, that's a pretty big cost.
Yeah. Okay. So that would have simplified my stage 4 and maybe saved some HP, maybe one placement, and then the 3-2 augment would have likely been better. which maybe could have saved another placement. I think those two stood out to me as like kind of the biggest learnings. Was there anything else that jumped out for you?
I will say, like, from a long term, like, the way you're thinking about the game, I think you're too committed to Light Shield on Sejuani.
Yeah.
It's not like Light Shield is. I think there's certain artifacts that makes that it makes sense to like be that committed to. Like, for example, Blighting Jewel. If I have Blighting Jewel first, I am for sure playing Morgana or Fiddle. Like, no other options. Because it's really sharp. But I think like Light Shield is just like a pretty generic item.
Okay.
So I think like that's a big one. I think the other thing is that like how you said like you're really scared of not getting Rage Blade. I think that to me is probably like a big like long term like weakness.
Mm.
I would actually. Why don't we do this right now? Let's go through your own games and see how often you miss Rage Blade on Zeri. Like just I would just go to like I like Tactics.tools, just go to your own profile and then filter for 7 Exotech down here. Oh yeah, it just takes a little bit to load. I think it's fine here. You can also see the total games if you go scroll up actually. Change that last 50 to all. And then go to the traits tab and like just like Control F Exotech. Yeah, so you've played 31 games, and now we can just like manually look through your match history, like how many out of 31 you missed Rage Blade.
Pretty much never.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there is some bias because like you're more likely to play this line when you start with like open bow, for example. And also there's another bias because in the past we didn't have to make Kraken Slayer, which we do now with bow.
Yeah.
But I would still say like look how often you have double Rage Blade, right? For example.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hard to miss Rage Blade, even without a component on as early as 3-2.
Okay.
It's definitely more possible. I would say it'll probably happen between 5 to 10% of the time, but it's not worth like playing for.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Probably closer to 5%, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's assuming no item augment, actually.
Right. All right. Thanks for the coaching session. It's helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Talk to you later.
See ya.